All right, everybody, good evening. Welcome to Sustainability Live. I'm your host, Laura Worley. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tonight, we're going to meet the award winners from our annual Sustainability Heroes Award event that took place last week. We've been running the award program for over 10 years, and we recognize people who've done amazing things for sustainability. We hope that hearing the story of these award winners will inspire you to do great things and also live by the 10 One Planet Living principles which we follow. We will dig deeper with a handful of the winners so you can get to know them better. And first, we want to mention all the nominees. So we had Tracy Marcial from Contra Costa Community College District, Terry Edwards Nixon from Let's Grow Together, Jasmine Cisneros from Little Sprouts Garden Academy, Alexandra Bunick, Isaac DeRosas and Lance Sanchez, Karen Mariner, Marty Roach, Delta Bowl, Resourceville, it's a new store here in Lafayette, and then the Green Building honoree was the Kramer May Home in San Pablo. And then the 2021 Leadership and Sustainability Award winners are Jack Dice from the Muffin People, CoCo San Sustainable Farm, co-founded by Carolyn Finney, Ray Hartz from Healthy Hearts Institute, the Watershed Project, Devin Jackson, who's currently on his bike right now. He's a teacher and environmental leader at Walnut Creek's Foothill Middle School, Eco Mulch and Hamilton Tree Service, and then finally Devin Bradley, our Rising Star winner. And tonight we have the honor of speaking to 4 of the winners, so we can go deeper with questions and learn about them. That we will speak to Jack Dice, Devin Bradley, Carolyn Finney, and Devin Jackson. And we're still waiting to see if Jack Dice can make it, right, Tyler?
He has joined us.
Oh, great.
Oh, Jack is here.
Okay, because we're going to start with Jack. But before we start with Jack, if you have any questions as we go along or any comments, feel free to write them in the chat, or and we can read them at the end. Or you can also push the raise hand button if you want to be unmuted to speak. So let's meet our first guest, Jack Dice. Let me give you a little intro on Jack. He's a 17-year veteran of the Muffin People. Jack is a true community treasure and an environmental hero. For over 33 years, the Muffin People have been bringing healthy groceries to St. Mary's Center, Emeryville Citizens Assistance Program, and St. Vincent de Paul. 6 days a week, the Muffin People volunteers load up their own vehicles in the early morning with leftover food that's donated by La Marinda and Walnut Creek grocery stores, and they make the trip to Oakland. Jack, who's now in his 80s, continues to schedule the volunteers and work a weekly shift. The Muffin People not only promote social justice, but also keep hundreds of thousands of pounds of food out of landfill annually, which reduces greenhouse gases. Jack and the team make sustainability a practice. The total of the food they prevent from being wasted exceeds $1.4 million a year. That is impressive. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you.
Yes, Jack, we wanted you to tell us in your own words about your journey with the Muffin People and why this work is important to you.
Well, things happen literally every week that is totally unexpected. A little over a week ago, Safeway asked me to dispose of a pallet full of kitty litter. Now, so I went to ECAP in Emeryville and asked them if they would take it, and they said yes. When I got down there, they took 2 boxes and they said, would you take the rest over to Berry Brothers, which do all of our maintenance of our vehicles. Not only maintenance, but they furnish them, they repair them, they paint them, they house them at night so the vandals can't get them. And Berry Brothers took the entire pallet because they have grease on the floor, as any automotive shop would have. A few weeks before that, the people in Lafayette had their refrigeration go out, and we had over $10,000 worth of protein in one day to take, and we took it to St. Vincent de Paul. St. Vincent de Paul can normally only have protein, beef, chicken, whatever, once a month or twice a month because of their finances. This gave them protein for several months' time because they have massive coolers and refrigeration that they can store it in. Mm-hmm. Just one of the things that happens, thank God, people look to us to take care of their special problems that they have. This is not unique. We used to have Susie cakes, and before they closed for the virus, every Thanksgiving Eve and every Christmas Eve, I would go down and I'd take all the remaining pastry that they had and take it down to St. Vincent de Paul for their Thanksgiving dinner and their Christmas dinner. It was so much that it filled the back end of my pickup truck each time. That's just one of the things that happens, other than the normal food that we get that's about to reach the sale-by date. And the food is wonderful. We don't take anything that we wouldn't feed our own families. And that's the way we judge it. And the stores do the same thing. They try and sort through everything they're giving us to make sure it's wholesome and it's good for people to consume. That's kind of a little bit of what happens.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, who was the first person that got in touch with the stores to say, here, we're here to take the food by this date? How did it all start?
Well, 30 some years ago, there was a conference down at St. Mary's Center, and Sister Batiste asked one of the people of the men's club if there was any way that the men's club could go to the stores and get food for them, because they were desperate to feed the people that were coming in for their soup. Mm-hmm. So the men started out on a casual basis, and they soon learned that they had to be a very dependable day in and day out source of taking the food from the various stores. And it progressed until finally one day I was asked by one of the members, would I take a test ride, which I did, and I liked it. So I stayed with it. And the meetings that they used to have scheduling were boring. They in person, and they went on for an hour and a half. So I finally said, I'm not going to come anymore, but just give me every Tuesday. And that happened twice. And then after that, they gave me a call and said, a unanimous vote has elected you the next muffin person head. And I said, how many people voted? 2. It was unanimous. So that's how I got started heading up the organization.
Yeah. And what's been an example of like your best day, like something super exciting that well, I guess the cat litter is probably an unexpected thing, but have you had a day where something really touched you?
Well, Trader Joe's had a very poor review by the Chronicle food writer about their Thanksgiving turkeys, which I thought was very unjustified. Mm-hmm. So the sales at the Lafayette store plummeted. And the day after Thanksgiving, I got a phone call and they said, we have a few turkeys left over. Would you make arrangements to pick them up? And I said, certainly. How many do you have? And they said 425 turkeys.
Oh my God.
So that took, if you can believe it, that took like 3 pickup load trips to take it down to St. Vincent de Paul and to St. Mary's Center. But fortunately, they were able to take care of it. Just odd things like that happen, and they seem to happen with some regularity. Yeah. I had another call from Diablo Foods that had stuffing mix left over. And so I went there to pick it up, and they had 60 cases, and it filled my entire truck.
Wow.
And then to get rid of 60 cases of stuffing mix is not the easiest thing, but I ended up being able to do it.
Yeah. I mean, if you were someplace hoping for a nice Thanksgiving meal and you got a turkey from Trader Joe's and stuffing from Diablo Foods and Susie cakes, pastries, desserts, that would be amazing.
It is
quite a treat.
And the food, the food is really good, because when it's about to reach the sale by date, it still has over a week left of good quality for anybody to have. Because when you buy it and it's reached the sale by date, you take it home and put it in your refrigerator. You don't have it the next day. You may have it within 3, 4, 5, 6 days. So what we get is very fresh and really wholesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. And when I met you and your wife, we brought up the point that, I mean, you were doing an amazing service by helping to feed people, but I bet you didn't expect that it was also doing all these good things for the environment. Like it was a double whammy of goodness.
Yeah, well, the gratification of being able to help somebody else as little or as much as possible is really invigorating, and it keeps you going, it keeps you stimulated, and you just look forward to the next day that you're going to work, because the reward of seeing all this good food go to places that desperately need it. And nowadays, the people need food like this more than ever. It's unfortunate. So many people are going hungry in this country. And the farmers can only sell the perfect vegetable, the perfect pumpkin. Nobody wants something that doesn't look beautiful. And it's just as good for you as anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, very good point. Well, we appreciate all the good work you're doing. It's been amazing, and we're happy you won the award this week.
Yes, here.
Yeah.
Carry on, Jack.
Laura, I have a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Not at all.
Jack, let's talk about the economics. I mean, if I were a bakery and I ended up with a significant amount of surplus, I would think that I had over created, over baked, or over purchased, and over time I'd say, gee, I'm having this much surplus. I better crank down my ordering so that I won't incur those losses. I realize that they're writing this off as a charitable contribution, but still, it would make more sense for them not to purchase it in the first place. Do you have any insight about the economics of food surplus?
Well, one of the people at Lenardi's told me that if they don't have milk available on the shelf every day, no matter how many people come in looking for milk, the next day that they don't have the milk, the people go elsewhere. So they can't afford to cut back and ration it and just sell the last crumb. You have to have enough to take care of all the unexpected extra sales. And what you can't sell, you just have to donate, and you write it off as a tax loss. So
Okay.
whether you give it to us or it goes in a dumpster, you get the same tax benefits. The only thing is that you are a human being helping other human beings.
That's a very good insight. I appreciate that, because I didn't think about the contingencies of spikes in purchasing that they have to be prepared for. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jack, we got a question from Carolyn too. Where did the name Muffin People come from?
Years ago, when it first started, the big deal for breakfast was muffins. And everybody was baking muffins, and the stores were loaded with it. And so we, of course, got a lot of muffins. And one day we were delivering to St. Mary's Center, and one of the older ladies yelled out, "Here comes the Muffin Man." And that happened 3 or 4 days in a row, and it just stuck.
That's fun. So around town, like if you're out at a restaurant, do people know you as the Muffin Man?
Yeah.
And of course, you've got a theme song to that, right?
Yeah.
There is a theme song. But
Yeah. Do
I
you
can't
know the
sing it.
Muffin Man, right?
Sorry.
From the it's a kid's song. Great.
I think that's what the
old
person
English
was referring to.
goes
Mhm.
along.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jack, thank you so much for telling us about your journey with the Muffin People, and stay tuned because there may be some questions that pop up at the end for you as well.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we're going to talk to our next guest now. It's Devin Bradley. He's been patiently waiting. He's our Rising Star winner. Devin Bradley is a Miramonte High School senior who founded his school's Environmental Solutions Club as a sophomore. Recognizing the impact of the pandemic on his community's small businesses, he led the club in creating Project Heart, a unique effort to help local restaurants survive while addressing environmental sustainability. Project Heart, which stands for Help the Environment and Assist Restaurant Takeout, used social media to promote takeout and to raise funds to purchase compostable takeout materials. The Environmental Solutions Club also worked on passing an Orinda, I'm going to say this wrong, probably Devin, polystyrene ban.
Yeah, that's right, polystyrene.
Okay, and educating Miramonte students on lunchtime recycling. So welcome, Devin. We appreciate you being here. We want to know about your journey doing all of these amazing feats and what made you passionate about styrofoam in particular.
Yeah, so it was kind of a long journey. So it started out in my sophomore year when I founded my club to basically tackle plastic pollution in restaurant takeout. So that was the goal from the start, was to work with restaurant owners to find ways to reduce their plastic usage. So we were meeting with restaurant owners and like kind of presenting different solutions and alternatives to like plastic utensils and plastic containers. And so we were working with them, and what happened was that the pandemic hit, and suddenly our plan to kind of, persuade restaurant owners to use more sustainable takeoutware like compostables wasn't really feasible, as restaurants kind of hit like entered like hard times. So that's kind of why I launched Project Heart, because I wanted to help restaurants, but at the same time, because takeout was kind of like the new mode of business during the pandemic, there's a lot of increase in plastic waste through all the takeout that was being done. So the idea behind Project Heart was to help local restaurants and also promote sustainability by donating compostable takeout supplies. And then I guess it kind of led into the polystyrene ban. When we were working with restaurants, we were kind of also surveying them and getting a sense of like what type of takeout containers they were using. And we noticed that a lot of Orinda restaurants were using styrofoam containers. Styrofoam is just like a form of polystyrene. So we noticed that a lot of restaurants were using polystyrene, and I had learned that polystyrene was bad from my AP Environmental Science class that I was taking. We'd kind of looked into all the different types of plastics. And the reason why polystyrene is so bad is mainly it's not recyclable in my county here. So I'm also a Recycle Smart intern, so I also kind of learned it from that as well, that polystyrene is just one of those really bad plastics. And so I did a little bit more research into how bad polystyrene was, and I was kind of mind blown at how harmful it was, along with like the environmental impact of not being like commercially recyclable. There's also some health impacts that the EPA found, including it being a possible carcinogen. So that was pretty alarming. And then I also discovered that a lot of other environmental impacts of polystyrene. So that prompted me to kind of take action. And the first thing I did, I guess, I don't know if there's going to be more questions like on this in particular, but the first thing I did was that I did some research about, I guess, local ordinances on polystyrene. And I found a Contra Costa ordinance on polystyrene. And at the time, I was a little bit naive and I didn't know exactly how the whole thing worked. And I thought, oh, there's a Contra Costa ordinance. That means it applies to everyone in Contra Costa. So I handed out flyers to restaurant owners. And then later, someone contacted me and told me, hey, this doesn't apply to Orinda. It only applies to unincorporated communities. I'm like, what's unincorporated communities? And they told me, oh, that means outside city limits. So it doesn't apply to Orinda. So that's when I realized I'd have to go the long way. And yeah, I met with a person from Recycle Smart who had helped implement a polystyrene, or actually more of just a widespread plastic ban in Alameda. And so I met with her, and she kind of gave me the idea to like advocate for a ban at my local city council. So she really inspired me. And then Recycle Smart in general is really helpful throughout all my projects. They gave me advice on like the type of materials for Project Heart I should donate. And they were really helpful here as well. They gave me a lot of support. And so then that's kind of where led me to the city council. And I don't know if I should talk about the entire.
Yeah,
ban.
no, I'm curious, like, how did you even know what the first step was with city council, and how did they bring you up in a meeting?
Yeah, so I learned from the person from Recycle Smart who passed a ban in Alameda. She told me how I could get a ban passed in Rinda. She said you can go speak during a public forum session, and
Okay.
then during that public forum session, someone, one of the council members or the mayor, might take interest to your like idea and help try to pass the ban. So that was the first step I took, was to go to a public forum session. And I enlisted the help of several public speakers from my club who I knew were pretty good at public speaking. And so we kind of just went in without too much high hopes. We weren't sure exactly what we were doing, but it ended up working out.
And you brought a little posse with you, so it wasn't just you by yourself.
Actually, it was just, well, it was me and then 3 other students, but we didn't have any outside old adults helping us with the advocacy. It was just us and like me and the students.
Okay. I think that's powerful though. I mean, if you guys are showing that you all researched this and you know it's not good and you brought it to the attention and it wasn't just one person, you had several people show interest, I think that probably has weight. So now, so a couple of questions. How did you figure out how did you get compostable materials donated for the restaurants?
Yeah, so I enlisted the help. Well, first, I guess I should probably talk about fundraising. So traditionally, when you do fundraising, you just sell like baked goods. And that's what kind of I thought like I should do at first, just sell some baked goods and like, that's how we can raise money. But there's several problems with that. One, it was the pandemic, so it wasn't very safe from like a health standpoint to sell baked goods. And second, I'd be selling them in Orinda, so I'd be competing with local businesses. So that definitely defeated the point. So it was kind of difficult. And what I figured out, the best way to raise money was to do a lot of like outreach to news outlets and also Nextdoor. So I kind of posted my thing on Nextdoor, and that's how I raised a lot of money. And then also I got our project posted in several news outlets, and they kind of and they posted, like I interviewed with them, and they're totally on board with helping like advertise our project and write a story on it. So that's how we fundraise mainly. And then for actually, I guess, organizing deliveries and giving the supplies to the restaurants, I enlisted the help of my environmental club and the members to basically, we coordinated dates to all meet. And I ordered the supplies off like this site called Webstront that delivers like compostable supplies. So yeah, I ordered them, and then I had some friends come in their cars, and then we took the supplies all down to Orinda, and we split up to deliver all the supplies to different restaurants.
And were the restaurant owners expecting you, or did you say like, here?
Oh yeah, so I should probably clarify. I met before the project began with as many restaurant owners as I could. It was a little bit difficult because they're really busy. They're always on the phone. They're always cooking up a storm. So it's kind of hard to get in contact with them. So normally they'd just give me their email or their phone number, and I'd call them during an off time. And that's when we'd work out what supplies they needed, and also like when's the best time to deliver them.
Okay. And there was one other thing you said that just made me think of another question. So when you brought them the new compostable materials, were they willing to give you their, like, how do they get rid of not using the plastics and the styrofoam they were using before?
Yeah, so it's not like we were giving them our compostables and then taking away their plastics. We were just like giving it on top of what they already had. So like just to extend their supplies, so they won't need to order more like plastic supplies.
Okay. Do you know cost comparison wise if it's economical for them to use the compostable options?
Yeah, so we did a lot of research prior to Project Heart because we were trying to convince restaurant owners to use compostable takeout supplies.
Yeah.
And what we realized is that in general, compostable takeout supplies are a lot more expensive than polystyrene and plastic. So that was definitely a huge hindrance to try to convince them.
I wonder if costs will come down, or if now that they just can't use it, if it's, they're gonna, or if they'll raise, if somehow they've got to figure out a way to make up for it. And all the donations and the fundraising you got was mainly through Nextdoor, people just donating money to your cause?
Yeah, so it was mainly through Nextdoor where we posted like our story, and that was definitely the best way because it only people that want to donate are probably only going to be in Orinda that know these local restaurants and
Yeah.
oh, I order from that restaurant, and so yeah, through Nextdoor we were able to get a lot of uh, yeah, donations. But we also donated. We also raised a lot of money through other things like putting ourselves in the newspaper. That helped a lot. And also the Recycle Smart newsletter that was sent out to all Contra Costa residents. That helped a lot. And then I'm trying to think. Yeah, we also did like within our club, we did a lot of like outreach to our own like family members and like friends that we knew in Orinda and like tell them, hey, you want to donate to our cause. And that was really effective as well.
So a few questions have popped up for you, Devin. Carolyn wants to know, do you think you will continue to be an activist for other causes you care about?
Yeah, so I think whatever I do in my life, it's going to be related to the environment. And like, I don't know exactly what career I want in the future, but definitely it's going to be like, I'm going to be an activist for environmental causes. And this year as well, I'm trying to continue what I've been doing. In my club, especially, because of all the stuff we've done, a lot of new members have joined and they're interested in, helping out, and they have their own ideas that I think are really cool. So our environmental club at Miramonte has kind of taken on a more expanded role, and we're promoting like individual members as projects. And it's not just about like the restaurants. We're doing a lot of other things as well.
Well, now that you've gone to city council once, you know what to do. I mean, you could,
yeah.
What's one, just give us an idea of a new project that people have on in your club.
Yeah, so one person in my club that recently joined, he has a really good idea for at our school. He has some idea about like energy efficiency. And so he wants to replace all the like lights at our school with LED lights. And his case is actually really effective. One, like the lights at our school are really old, and so they're really energy inefficient. And so that costs the school a lot of money. And so by replacing them, that would save them a lot of money as well. And then also just, I think a lot of other cool ideas. I know one girl in my club, she wants to, she has some good ideas to like promote different like meatless Mondays and like cafeteria oriented things. So I think she wants to work with the cafeteria to reduce like plastic usage and also just like maybe meatless Mondays or something like that. Yeah. And I could go on and on. There's amazing projects going on.
That's awesome. It's great that you have all these smart minds together and that you're actually doing things that's working. John Sierra says, I'm an AP environmental science teacher and I would love to share your success with my students in Eco Club. Do you have any documentation online or even a video or website I can share? You mentioned a newsletter.
Yeah, there's several newsletters, and then we also created some videos just for kind of explanatory purposes. So the Orinda News has a couple articles, and then also La Morinda News has some articles, and there's a Recycle Smart newsletter. So I would be happy to share with them.
We will be sending a follow-up email to everyone who registered tonight with the link to the YouTube video and various things. And if you send me those resources, Devin, I'll include it in the email so everybody can see it.
And
all right, that'd be great.
You can put it in the chat too, just if anybody wants to grab it now.
Question, Laura, can I ask him a question?
Go ahead, yeah.
So Devin, here's a couple of thoughts. I think the challenge for, you and your generation, our generation, is getting the message across to the rest of the student population, to the rest of our whole population. And I think there's a great opportunity to use performing arts and the arts in general. So a couple things you might want to consider is a trashy fashion contest, right? Clothes made out of trash to demonstrate how much waste and so forth. Second is recycled art sculptures. In other words, stuff that you might put in the quad that's made of like one day's trash from the cafeteria, And third then is music, and well, I guess fourth is street theater, performance, and really do things that engage the other students in a way that makes them think and gets them to recognize the impact of their lifestyles.
Yeah, I think that'd be really appealing to students. We definitely have some artistic students in my club. Some of them are digital designers, and I know there's definitely some in like the more traditional arts. So that would be a really cool idea. And also, I forgot to mention one of the major projects that I'm working right now is a volunteer bin system at Miramonte. So basically, volunteers during lunch can monitor bin stations around the quad, and they tell students like where to, like they just give them advice on where to put their trash basically. And it's like a really great way to earn volunteer hours and also help educate the student body. But I really like the idea about like the art. When I was younger, I loved using like the toilet rolls and like those things to create like different things. So that's a really cool idea.
You know, I know an organization, I forget where it was, that actually significantly increased the engagement in the recycling bins by having young girls, you know, and high school students dress up as recycle pixies. Okay. And so they would mime like, you know, and bring people in, don't throw it down, you know, and bring it over here. And it was funny and fun and really got people that would normally not engage with it to take part. And the studies have shown that the distance a person is from a trash bin, the odds increase of them actually just dropping it on the ground, you know, let alone getting it in the right bin. So some fun ideas.
Yeah, Devin, that's a good one, especially if it helps people create habits. If they learn like, oh, this is what goes in the green one or the blue one. I mean, eventually over time, you don't have to have people standing there because they've learned the habits themselves. So that's
yeah,
really
exactly.
You know, Devin, there's an organization, there's a woman you might want to talk to, and her name is Green Mary. And look up Green Mary on the web. And she's up in Sonoma County, and she works with young people. She hires young people she is hired by major events like the America's Cup, major golf tournaments, festivals and stuff, because in Sonoma County, it's required to have recycling. And so she's got her team and so forth. And you might learn a lot. She's an amazing woman. She's got a very eclectic background. You'd enjoy meeting her. So just drop her a note, you know, tell her what you're doing and say, hey, I'd like to talk or meet or something like that.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic.
Bring her
Can I
on
ask a
for
question?
Sustainability Live, Mark.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So Devin, my name's Taylor Walker, and I own a manufacturing company and have employees, and we're into supply chains and all the things that you're talking about. And one of the things that I wanted to just share with you is that when you're talking to a business owner, the key thing to remember from talking to a business owner who has employees and has lots of fixed costs and lots of variable costs is to talk about the costs. Because one of the problems one of the challenges inside restaurants is they only have a 3 to 5% profit margin. So when you start talking about changing things around that are more expensive, or even though they're better for the environment, they're not going to do it, because remember, they're doing things that are in their own best interest. And right now, as a manufacturing company ourselves, we are experiencing a lot of supply chain problems. So we're a manufacturing company, we are a printing company, so we rely on the supply chain to get paper to our place. Well, you know, truck drivers are in short supply right now. So when people come to me and they want to talk to me, they talk to me about all these high ideals, but what I want to hear is the solution. As a manufacturer, as a president of a corporation, is I want to hear how this is going to affect my bottom line. Because it's great to have all these things and I want to do the right thing, but I need to be able to fit it into my budget. The other thing is, if the prices increase, customers won't necessarily come and use it. So who's going to absorb the cost? So just remember that kind of thing. And I think what you're really talking about is you're really going to be a social justice type of activist, which is also what I am as well. So I just wanted to just give you a different point of view from a true business person's point of view, as opposed to organizer or whatever, because these are the real impactful kinds of things. So that's
when I first set out guess as a sophomore, I was definitely like that. I just assumed, oh, they just, they don't care about the environment. I need to help them like realize the importance of environmental sustainability. And so over the course of the 2 years that my viewpoint on that has really changed, I got a job working at Share Tea in Orinda. And I was just like, I went to my boss and said, hey, like, maybe we could replace the straws with compostable straws. And like, he's like, okay, like then he's looking at like the price of the straws versus his straws. And he's like, that's not possible. I wouldn't be able to, that would be a significant hurt to my profits. And also, I think he's a franchise, so he gets his supplies from Share Tea, so he can't really control that. So definitely that's something like I've been thinking about. And yeah.
But I think that's one of those things where if you share the message. So one of the things that we're big into is 10 years ago, recycled paper was 20-30% more expensive than new virgin paper. Now it's the same price. So now we only carry recycled paper, and we save millions of tons of fluorocarbons going into the atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. So, but what happened was two things. One, we would tell our customers about the recycled paper. Hey, it is 15 to 20% more. And if you can get past that, this is really helping the environment. So that's a one-to-one conversation. It takes a long time. The other part is when you're telling all your friends, and I do this as well, like I won't patronize places that are not conscious of it. They're not conscious about social justice and climate kinds of things. I just flat out don't patronize them. And I also put it on our email. We've got several thousand people on our email and text and all that kind of stuff. And we talk about these kinds of things. So just keep talking about it. And it takes a lot of energy, believe me. Things from you into the future.
Yeah, so that definitely reminds me of one of our success stories. So I think when it's working with businesses, you need a win-win situation. And one of these win-win situations that really worked for us was utensils. So during the pandemic, a lot of people were ordering takeout from home and no one really needed utensils. So all these restaurants were putting plastic utensils in the takeout when they didn't really need it. So one thing we did as part of Project Heart, in order to receive supplies, you had to supply utensils upon request. So, one thing we did was that we showed the amount of money they can save by not putting plastic utensils in the takeout. So that was one of our situations like that was win-win.
That's great. I love that. And every time we order food now, they ask, do you want utensils? We're always like, no, because you save up so much. At some point you've met your fills.
Yeah. And also I should probably say that I think the polystyrene ordinance, one of the things we added on it was restaurants have to supply utensils upon request. I'm not sure if restaurants are doing that quite yet, but we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. Well, Devin, thank you so much. Thank you for all the work you've done. And I feel like we have much more to hear from you. You are going to continue this fight for environmental justice, and we really appreciate it. And I know our next guest really appreciates you because she's kind of in the similar vein as you. Carolyn Finney is our next guest. She's our co-founder of the nonprofit Aglantis and the amazing CoCo San Sustainable Farm. This farm provides free, sustainably grown produce to schools, food banks, and other nonprofits. By growing and delivering food locally, the farm dramatically reduces its carbon footprint and cost to produce. It also uses recycled water that would otherwise be discharged into the bay. The farm offers hands-on classes in organic urban farming and gardening. Not only do volunteers learn about growing vegetables, but they also learn about food justice, nutrition, and health, and how food systems affect bees, weather, and the environment. The farm rebuilds barren soil, plants crops that sequester carbon, and cleans the air and improves the hydrologic cycle, a word she just taught me. Welcome, Carolyn. That's quite impressive. We want to hear about your journey. I know you've done some major fighting for your justice to get your farm started. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey to get where you are?
So I've been a political activist for 30 years, which is why I asked Devin the question about whether he's going to continue to be an activist. And in 2010, Mike McGill, who's viewing this, came to a meeting I was at and said that our sanitary district at that time was throwing away 50 to 200 million gallons of water a day into Sassoon Bay that could be recycled and reused. And then he went into, talking about how clean recycled water was. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But afterwards, I said to him, kind of joking, with all that free water, too bad you don't have any free land, because I just been to the food bank with moveon.org and the refrigerators were empty. This is the Contra Costa Solano Food Bank, and they had no fresh produce. And Larry said that they really needed fresh produce. And I also am friends with Cindy Gershon, who owns Sunrise Bistro, but she is the nutrition teacher at Mount Diablo High School. And she told me, Carolyn, it costs $1 a day to feed a child a salad and 35 cents to feed them pizza. So can you guess what we feed them? And so I have a PhD in psychology. I'm a researcher. I'm not a clinician. I am a scientist, but I am not a farmer. So my joke, my question to Mike was kind of apocryphal. But he said, oh, we have lots of land. Nobody wants to live near a sanitary district. And well, it turned out they had 150 acres of buffer land. And it turns out that Contra Costa County's sanitary districts have 5,000 acres of buffer land. And so I set out to see if I could get some land to grow salads for schools in the food bank. And so our website is Salads for Schools, the number 4. We're going to change it to Atlantis because we have too many names going on, but sometimes we call it Salads for Cindy because we do supply produce to her and for her nutrition students to cook. And then she feeds those students, because one of the things that happens with people who don't have access to fresh produce is they don't know how to cook it and they don't know how to eat it. It's very unfamiliar. And she also feeds the teachers at Mount Diablo High School, which is just a boon because we all know teachers are underpaid. So anyway, it took a very long time to get the farm. The USDA basically had someplace, I found that it had to be 15 acres to be self-sustaining financially. And so I set my mind on getting 15 acres from Central San, and they kind of blew me off and literally said to the person who was my contact person, oh, she's just a Girl Scout troop leader, just get rid of her. And I said, well, yes, as a matter of fact, I was a Girl Scout troop leader in Ann Arbor, Michigan for many years, but that's not what's going on. And the more I talked to this guy, one day he turned and looked at me. He said, you're never going to go away, are you? And I said, well, when you wipe out nutritional poverty in the county, I'll go away. No, actually the state. No, actually the US. And so then he started to get serious. And nutritional poverty is different from hunger because you can get enough calories from the potato chip aisle. So the estimates at the time were that 22% of the people in the county were hungry. Since COVID, that's approximately doubled from everything that I can ascertain. And that's not nutritional poverty, that's hunger. You can fill up on hot dog buns. So my guess, and it is just a guess, is nutritional poverty is probably about 60% of the population of the county, meaning they're not getting the vitamins and minerals from their food that they need. And of course, if you don't have much money and you go into the grocery store, the cheapest calories are in the potato chip aisle. They're not in, you're not going to go buy organic broccoli.
Right.
that's just not going to happen. And if you buy broccoli, it's going to be the kind that's been sprayed with a lot of pesticides. So that's a food justice issue.
Mhm.
So my co-founder, Bethelyn Black, is the head. She's Professor Bethelyn Black, and she's a lifetime organic farmer. And she's the head of horticulture at Diablo Valley College. And she also is on the Resource Conservation District Board. So she's a highly respected member of the community who taught many of the master gardeners to be master gardeners in this county. So we lobbied and we did all sorts of things to get the farm. But I'm not going to go into the politics of getting the farm. That is a much too long a story.
Just know she's a strong activist, and she pulled out all the tricks, including getting the media involved.
Yes. So just in brief, we got all the elected officials that I knew personally to write letters, including school board, community college, Larry Sly, and your elected Amy Worth, other elected officials. And then Central San said, we don't care what the elected officials want. We care what the ratepayers want. And so then I'm not going to go into all the details, but eventually they said they really didn't care about that because they were elected to decide. And I said, oh, now you said the magic word, because I'm a political activist and you said the word elected. And so you're telling me you don't care what the voters want. And turned out they did care what the voters wanted. And so we got like 2,000 letters and signatures, and all those elected officials they didn't care about showed up at the board meeting where they voted, and we got a 5-0 vote in favor of giving us the farm and the 15 acres. And Central San has been fantastic. They're, they were very reluctant because they thought we were going to put a teepee up. They thought I was some, hippie with a PhD from Berkeley, and it's going to turn it into People's Park or something. But once they realized we were serious, they've been very, very supportive, and they want us to succeed. So,
and tell about when you got there, how the land was. There was no weeds. It was
okay. So the property used to be underwater, and then they built the railroad on the northern waterfront like 50 or 75 years ago. I have to find out when. And they dammed off everything south of that. And so this property is at the intersection, the northeast corner of 4 and 680. It's right across from Buchanan Airport. And so Central San and County Quarry, which is across the street, decided they were going to fill this property, this bathtub, up with clean fill from the Highway 4 project. And so fill, this kind of fill, was subsoil, which means it was all minerals. And if they got a truck of topsoil, they carted it away. And so this property was a desert when we got it. It had no first invader weeds. So if you watch the Sustainable Contra Costa video, I think at some point I say that on the video that there were no weeds. When there are no weeds, that means there's no organic matter in the soil. That weeds can't even survive. And so we had to do years and years of ecological restoration of the soil. And so you can't, so you basically start out with minerals. And I guess one way to describe it, well, it looked like concrete. And then what we did is we got EcoMulch to donate about $1 million worth of mulch, and we covered the farm. It took 3 years. We covered the farm 2 feet deep in mulch. And then we got, that's carbon. Then we got organic horse manure from Pleasanton, which means the horses were fed organic food. And if they were given drugs, that horse manure was separated, and we didn't get it. And we covered the farm 1 foot deep in organic horse manure. And we're talking 15 acres.
yeah. So mulch and then manure.
So you've got carbon, and then you have nitrogen.
Okay.
And then we needed rain. And so meanwhile, Central San was looking out the windows at this buffer land saying, you're going to set the place on fire with all those wood chips. And we were like, no, it doesn't really work that way. And then they were like, oh no, it's poop, it's poop, it's all poop. That's not the word they use. And we were like, yeah, it is all poop. And they were like, what are you doing? Where's the salads? Where's the salads for Cindy? Where's the salads for schools? And we were like, we have to restore the land first. And so a fire started on the other side of the property, on the other side of the fence, not on our side, and it swept over to our side and turned when it came to the fence, and went the other way because we had restored the hydrologic cycle on our side. And what does that mean? So it was a drought year when we finished this, and students dug a soil pit, and when they got down a foot, it started to fill with water. And it hadn't rained in 9 months. But if you put a 3-foot blanket on soil, every drop of rain, every drop of moisture is going to be preserved. And then when we went to Bethel and finally said, just put in the irrigation and plant it. And I was like, what? And so it was like, just put in the irrigation and plant it. And when we dug the irrigation ditch, we hit water right away on this. And so, so we went from total barren land. And now if you go out to the farm, there's about 2 acres that's covered. It's like a tropical rainforest out there. It's like the Garden of Eden, because not only did we do this amazing, and Bethlehem was totally the brains behind it. She told me what to do. I did it, but she's the brains. And but the amazing thing is that when you restore the soil the way we did, and then add recycled water, everything grows. It's like the Garden of Eden out there.
Yeah.
Like if we ever have an earthquake and you have no food, just come out there. You can pick broccoli, tomatoes. It's hard to even harvest everything because it's so abundant that. And so we've donated the first year off of a 1/4 acre, we donated 12,000 pounds of produce. And that was with me being the farmer. I didn't know what I was doing. And the second year off 1/2 acre, we donated 25,000 pounds. Now we have 2 acres that look green, but they're not all in production because some things are, I'll just say they're resting. They're doing something else environmental. And we've donated almost 30,000 pounds since May. So that's, I guess that's, the other thing I want to say is that it's a regenerative agriculture farm. And conventional agriculture causes about 30% of global warming. And most people don't know that. And a lot of that is caused by the practices they engage in that kill the microbes in the soil. So the only thing that we know that can save us from global warming is the microbes in the soil. The microbes in the soil work with plants to sequester and sink carbon. And so when you do regenerative agriculture, you're working to sink carbon in your soil. I'm not going to go into all the science, but we have a hoop greenhouse out there, and I tell people that most of the conversations about global warming are about the left side of the greenhouse, just that we're putting too much up. Well, the reality is that we've already put too much up. The historic CO2 load is too high. And so what we need to focus on is pulling it back down. And the planet is like a pair of lungs. Yes, human activity and everything exhales CO2, but the planet naturally heals itself. It inhales the CO2 through plants. And we are not just putting too much up, we're interfering with the ability of plants to suck the CO2 down through photosynthesis and then sequester it in the soil through the microbes in the soil. So when you're a regenerative agricultural farm, you wake up in the morning and you think, how can I protect the microbes? You don't think about the stuff that's coming up. You think
Yeah.
what's below the soil that's going to sink carbon. And that means you're not going to till, you're not going to use Roundup, you're not going to use pesticides, you're going to use integrated pest management. You're going
Right.
to do everything you can to preserve and foster the microbial growth below the soil.
And Carolyn, I don't mean to cut you off, but we
That's
gotta keep things moving. But and I love you. You're so fascinating. I could ask you 500 questions.
No, that's a perfect place to stop.
Well, I really appreciate it. And I mean, you barely touched on the amount of food you've donated. That's just been amazing. I mean, that's a huge part of this, but everything else you've done for the environment's amazing. And I think we'll have some questions for you at the end too. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all for listening.
And we're going to move on to our final guest, who is Devin Jackson. He's the middle school teacher and environmental hero I mentioned before. He is the lead environmental sustainability coordinator and staff advisor for the Environmentally Concerned Kids Club at Walnut Creek's Foothill Middle School. This club of over 40 students from all grades promotes environmental awareness around campus. Under Devin's guidance and with the help of the school administrators, Foothill Middle School was awarded a bronze level Green Ribbon School Award by the California Department of Education and received a Waste Busters Award for 75% waste diversion, 75% in 2018. By making sustainability an integral part of Foothill Middle School, their day-to-day operations, Devin Jackson is helping students understand the importance of caring for the environment now and in their future adult lives. Welcome, Devin. And I know you had a question to see if we could show one of your slides. I'm wondering if Tyler received his message.
I did. We are ready to go. So I was going to have
Great.
Devin say hello, quote unquote, on camera.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
You can see his face. But then when you're ready, Devin, I will bring up your slides.
I am ready.
Okay. Let me just head over here to where I have put it, which is Firefox.
I will add these slides to the chat so that everybody can have them for later.
Yeah.
I
great.
promise I will go quickly through this, but I'll make sure that everything is presented in a way that you can get the information and you can always ask additional questions. So my name is Devin Jackson, and I'm a teacher at Foothill Middle School in Walnut Creek. I'm a middle school earth, life, and physical science teacher at Foothill Middle School. It's part of the Mount Diablo Unified School District in Contra Costa County. I also have a lot of other certifications that I won't mention right now because honestly, it's not about me, it is about my students, and it is about the future educators, the future scientists, the future citizen scientists, my students, and other awesome students around the San Francisco Bay Area, California, United States, and the world. So for me, being green and a certified naturalist, environmental steward, citizen scientist, they're fundamental aspects of my personality, actions, and daily life. I have a strong connection, passion, and bond with nature, the environment, environmental sustainability, eco-literacy, water, energy, resource conservation, recycling, composting, and waste landfill diversion practices. Tyler, next slide, please. If you can click one more time, Tyler, there's a quick video there. And the video is, there's actually no sound, but it's a video. Yeah, there's no sound. The video is of the Foothill Middle School garden. This is what it actually looked like back in June of 2021. There's a lot more plants now. You can go ahead and stop it right there. And so, oops, right back just a little bit. Yes, right there. So there are 4 beds there that currently do not have plants in them, but eventually we'll be putting some vegetables. We'll be putting some pollinator plants in there. And then to the right here, this whole area, part of it is like a large part of it has mulch all over it. And there's another section where I have to help bare earth, like Carolyn mentioned, and I've got to add good compost to it. And I'll talk more about this garden. It's going to eventually become an edible schoolyard garden, like the ones in Alameda County and at King Middle School in Berkeley. And so we're on our way there, but we're not there yet. So you can Tyler, click out of this, and I'm just focusing here on like get ready to recycle and compost at Foothill Middle School, because the health of the Walnut Creek watershed is impacted by the quality of soils near our school. We are on the watershed off of Mount Diablo, and the health of our soils with nutrient-rich humus and compost, you gotta have a sense of humus to be connecting with the environment and connecting with the earth and students. I know, and I don't know if you know the Banana Slug Band, but they're fantastic. And they always talk about dirt made my lunch. And so I definitely let my students know about that. And then next slide. This is a lot of information, I know, but like I'm the staff advisor to the Environmentally Concerned Kids Club. And our mission is all about guiding, educating, and supporting students and staff with the essential knowledge and skills to lead an environmentally aware and sustainable life on campus. We were founded 22 years ago. We strive by the end of the 2030, maybe even 2045, which I'll be very old by then, but that's only 20 something years from now, but to be a zero waste school. We're at 75%, but we're trying to go beyond that. Back in 2018, we did get a bronze level green ribbon school award from the California Department of Education. And we're the first school in Mount Diablo Unified and Contra Costa County. So Devin, if you would like some help in getting Miramonte to be a green ribbon school, my Environmentally Concerned Kids Club would be happy to help you. We have Enter to Learn, Lead to Serve, and Think Globally, Acting Locally. We currently have about 20 something students in the EC Club, but at one time we did have up to 40, but it's not a competition. It's about helping the environment. Next slide, Tyler. This is like one of my favorites. Animals in the ocean are hurt by single-use plastics. It's never too late. It's never too late. I dare you to throw away just one piece of plastic. And if you can go to the next slide, there's a quick video here that is done. You have to click it one more time, I think. And it's by one of our presidents, past presidents of the EC Club. And she talking about, I dare you to throw away just one piece of plastic. Go ahead. Oh, I think we have to share audio, but we can put the video. We can put the video in the chat if people want to watch it.
I could. Okay, yeah, it might take a minute to share my audio. So.
Yeah, that's fine. We can put it in the chat for people. But just to let you know, it's the Environmentally Concerned Kids Club. They dare you to throw away just one piece of trash, and she goes into this whole like great presentation about and statement about. Like take a chip bag, you know, the Lay's potato chip says, I dare you to eat just one. Well, if we all throw away trash instead of put it in a recycling bin, or instead of putting the compost bin, if it's food, organic waste, then it's like if every single one of us on Earth, that's 7.8 or 9 billion people, that's a lot of trash that could have been recycled or composted. Next slide. And then basically the other parts of this is we are doing a virtual and in-person kind of food waste warrior green week. And we're going to do this around Earth Day in 2022. And it's like, have you ever thrown away food after a meal? Meaning like throwing away a whole piece of bread, a whole apple. what are the reasons you threw that away? And the students are going to do a refrigerator audit. And they're going to go into the refrigerator and they're going to find out what they have in there and how much do they use and how much gets wasted. So if you go to the next slide, Tyler, you'll see that there's this whole 5E learning sequence. I know it's difficult to read, but as I'm a middle school teacher, we have to have the next generation science centers, the environmental principles, what it means to be a citizen scientist and environmental activist. And then there's a refrigerator audit. Don't chuck that chow. It's all about taking your compost and planting it back in the garden. And then you get, I did this, I got to actually take some some of these like green onions from my compost bin. I planted in the ground and now I had green onions. My wife was like, why are you taking it out of the compost bin? Well, because we could actually reuse it. There's a zero waste chef. There's a sort your stuff challenge. If you go to the next slide, Tyler, you'll see that what my Ec Club is all about. We stand for what we stand on. Our world is changing, so should we. Next slide. Social justice is very important. You know, respectfully describe ways that people, including myself, are similar and different from each other in their identity groups. Next slide. This is one of my students. His name's William Valadoid. And this was one of the trash walks we did around campus, and then we did a waste audit. Look how much trash the students found around campus, and then also we're in the wrong bins. So like Devin, we're trying to encourage our middle schoolers to sort in the correct bins. And if you go to the next slide, Tyler, you'll see that Connor's friend, Kieran, was like, I have this bag of carrots. Nobody wants it. What should I do with it? You can't give it back to the cafeteria. They can't use it. You don't want to throw it in the compost bin because maybe it could go somewhere. You don't want to put it in the trash can because we could use it. And Kieran decides, let's make a smoothie. It's a nice hot day. Why not? A carrot smoothie. And so thinking of things like that. Next slide. We've also done rotten compost. Compost is proof that there's life after death. And also learn about how easy it is to turn your spoil into soil. And next slide, please. We're gonna do like I said, the Food Waste Warrior Challenge. And I'm sorry, Devin, I hopefully am not trying to outdo you, because honestly, I'd really like to connect with your students and connect with your club. And I'd really like for you to kind of come over and talk to my club, because I think you have a lot to give and a lot to support them. But we are also going to do like a 2-week challenge that involves a meatless Monday, a meatless Friday, reusable drink container, reusable lunch bag. We're going to do lunch monitors. And we also do a carbon calculator track sheet, so you can track what you compost and recycle. There is no Planet B. Next slide, Tyler. We're also going to be looking into, this is a kind of a folder that has all these different videos. We also work with Recycle Smart. Jessica Jane Robinson is a fantastic resilience birthright. She's a recycle woman, fantastic person, and she helps our students recycle, compost, and divert from landfill. Next slide. And our goal at Foothill is we hope that each student at Foothill and their families will support our school reach its carbon reduction goal of 7.68 carbon metric tons and 163,254 sustainable actions during our 2 weeks. We're trying. Next slide. And this is, if you get a chance, please watch this video. This is called the EC environmental video. It is literally my students 2 years ago decided to make, direct, edit their own video all about, it's like a newscast, like breaking news. And there's like a category 9 hurricane. And we added 3D effects, and it's really cool. If you get a chance, please watch it. And I think we're coming up on the last slide. The last slide, this one is results from last year. And I really just want to point out this, the pre-test results, what motivates you to avoid food waste? 59% of them, roughly 60% said environmental concerns. 57% said it's the right thing to do. Look what after the 2 weeks. Post-test results motivates you to avoid food waste. It went up by 5%. I know that's not a lot, but that's still great for environmental concerns. For it's the right thing to do, 74%. It went up about 10%. So I'm proud of my students. We've got a long way to go, but we're still trying. I'm going to go ahead and end it there. There is some part about the Green Ribbon School Award, but I don't want to bore you with all the statistics with that. And, you know, I couldn't do this without wonderful students like Devin Bradley over at Miramonte and his awesome generation of high schoolers and, younger than Devin, middle schoolers. But I couldn't do without them. They're really why I teach. They're really why I do the work that I do.
Well, I think your energy is infectious, so I'm sure you're giving it to them and they're giving back. So you would have been my favorite teacher in school, I think. It's impressive, everything you've done and your energy. And then even you used what Mark said, you did, you know, your students put on their own production, and that's bringing the arts in. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
I was gonna, well, first I want to say I loved your quote of "we stand for what we stand on." That's very clever. And I wanted to ask the zero waste school. That's your goal,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
And you've already gotten to 75% waste diversion. Is this something you can like model for other schools? Is this like a package we could put together and give to other schools, or how did you get there?
That is a great question. So eventually it could be a package that I could model to other schools, and Recycle Smart and Northern California Recycling Association, NCRA, is in the process of doing that with our schools committee. And my EC Club is actually presenting at a Zero Waste USA Youth Convergence on October 9th, which is 2 Saturdays from now. It was a long process and still is getting to zero waste. To my knowledge, there is no school in Alameda County and Contra Costa County that I know of that is at 100% waste diversion. The highest I have heard is about 85% waste diversion, which is still phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get higher than that. And I want to be transparent, and I want to put in a caveat that we were at 75 when I wrote that, and unfortunately we went down to 66% or 65% because it actually is determined based on our yardage of our bins, the large dumpsters we have, and the frequency of the pickups. So originally we tried to go for compost, I think it was 2 days a week. And we have a 3-yard. We have one that goes to like a digester in Alameda County. So it's only food waste. And then we have the compost cans. And we have a recycling bin, that dumpster that is another 3-yard. That one's picked up twice a week, but it's the landfill that really does us in. We tried to go to 1 day a week for landfill, and I'm sorry, it didn't work. And we had a buildup of trash, and our secretary went back to 2 days a week, maybe even 3. So that's how we went down. But eventually I'd love to get to that.
Yeah, you're learning. And I know
Absolutely.
Mark has a question for you too.
Yes.
Yeah, great work. I really appreciate your efforts, particularly with younger people in middle school versus, you see more of this in high school.
Yes.
But I want to ask you a very important question, and that is, I was doing this back in the 80s, okay?
Thank you.
School gardening and all those kind of things.
Thank you very much.
Well, my concern is that here you are 50 years later, and we're still doing it through clubs. And if you left the school, what's the likelihood that this club would continue? And where I'm going to is, what sort of efforts are you putting into place to institutionalize these things? Because all of these special programs are blips, punctuated equilibrium, and the equilibrium is low, and it concerns me. And so therefore, building an infrastructure that survives you, that survives those students, that doesn't depend on whatever. Anyway, you know where I'm going.
I do.
What do you see putting into place to prevent that?
That is a very good question, Mark. Thank you so much. I do want to be honest that I do not have the crystal ball answer. I do not have the best answer that you're going to want. I'm going to try my best to provide what I have noticed and what I think would work going forward. And so, like I mentioned, to get the bronze level was with my district, Mount Diablo Unified, was the hardest thing I really had to do outside of teaching my daily middle school students. It was extremely difficult to get the district. Sorry, Mount Diablo Unified, but it was really difficult to get the district to want to track their school individual water use, how much electricity individual schools use, how much diversion there is at a district level at each individual schools, to get any kind of specific information for the green ribbon was really tough. And I had to really use a lot of connections to do that, which were very few at the time. Now, the club itself has been around, as I mentioned, about 22 years.
Okay.
Fortunately, we had 2 teachers in previous years who led it and then passed it on to me. But you're absolutely right. If it wasn't me, or if it wasn't someone like-minded like me, it would have gone to the wayside. And that is an issue that myself and other colleagues who have these advisor positions at schools and districts, once the person leaves, what do you do? So go ahead, and I know I can see.
Okay. So a couple suggestions. Number one, what's very clear is we need in effect, a political effort to have a sustainability officer at the district level. Now, I know Contra Costa County has a sustainability officer, cities have those. Why not the district to be tracking those numbers and providing that information? The second is, with respect to your club, you may want to consider attaching yourself officially to a nonprofit organization like Sustainable Contra Costa, like Earth Team, like Global Student Embassy, because that way the institution is watching over the connection between them and the school, and helps finesse that transition rather than it just falling by the wayside. So I know one of those 3 organizations would probably be interested in talking to you.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for those suggestions, and I will definitely reach out and connect with all 3 of those organizations, or as many as I can.
Yeah.
I do want to answer or provide information to your first suggestion about why doesn't the district create a sustainability position.
Yes.
I am a small little teacher at Foothill Middle School, and I have zero clout about telling the district what and what not to do. I'm sorry.
It's not your role, really.
Yes,
honestly,
yes.
It's the role of Sustainable Contra Costa to lobby for that, because you would be the ideal. I know you probably enjoyed teaching, but you would be an ideal person to move into a position like that and organize and deal with the numbers. But
Thank you.
That would be a concerted effort that an organization called Sustainable Contra Costa could lead to motivate the decision makers.
So you are,
and the parents too. If the parents had
and the PTA and the
could
PTA, if there is one.
Yeah.
Yes, and you're exactly right, Mark. And what I've been working with district garden teachers and outdoor educators and teacher enthusiasts for outdoor education in Mount Diablo School District. And we have gone to district meetings, board meetings, and we have said things like, we want to have sustainable options for lights in Mount Diablo Unified. Water, we have the solar panels from the Measure C. We have like 26 megawatts of electricity that is generated from our solar panels, but we want more. And we want to do teaching outside with our students. We want outdoor education. And for the longest time, there has been so much on the board of that's on a deaf ear. Like back in 2018, my previous principal and I, when we got the bronze level, we went to the district and we had a slide, which I didn't show tonight, but we had a slide that said going for the gold, next steps, site and district energy master plan, increase staff and student education, school wellness program, edible schoolyard program, district level point person to help coordinate data, outdoor education, increase partnerships, continue to reduce trash and energy and increase energy use. And we've tried that, and district keeps saying, "Oh, that's great." And actually, most recently, there was this big push to get new buildings in Mount Diablo Unified. And when the architectural group that was hired to bring about these plans, when they presented their ideas, there was not a single reference to any kind of sustainability plan. And I stood up and I was like, "Excuse me, where's your sustainability options?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, that's down the line."
You shouldn't be the lone voice. I mean, that's really important. So, this is something I'll mention to the Sustainable Culture Across the Board. Here's just, we need to wrap this up, but
I know, sorry.
Have you talked to Heather Fontanella?
I have not. I'm gonna write that name down.
Go directly to Heather Fontanella. She's a friend of mine, and she's done amazing work at Mount Diablo High School. I know she'd be a very receptive ear. She may not be the official right person, but she could be an advocate for you. So anyway, thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right.
Devin, just really quick, John Sierra wants to partner with you because he said he's been drafting a plan to have a paid sustainability coordinator position at his school district. So maybe you guys can put your heads together.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, John.
And a nice note to you from Joy Danzig, who said, "It's the small little teacher who energized and motivates. You are inspiring, Devin Johnson. I'm going to talk about your club to my grandchildren." So
thank you so much.
Way to go. Thank you for all of your work. You're doing amazing things. I think.
Can I mention just one last thing? One other side that I didn't mention, but our next steps are to present a final presentation to the student body. We want to present a presentation to the Mount Diablo School District, the food services director, manager. We want to present to the Mount Diablo School Board. We want to present to the Walnut Creek City Council. So Devin Bradley, I would like to borrow some ideas and share some ideas with you. And you taught me, by the way, you taught me how to go about doing that to the Walnut Creek City Council. And so I'm going to have my students, middle schoolers. Yes, I know that middle schoolers might bother Walnut Creek City Council members, but hey, we're going to try. And so we always have to have a sense of humor. We got to try. Thank you.
I love it. So yeah, I think we asked most of the questions throughout the talk. If you have any other questions, write it in the chat. But for now, I just really want to thank all of our guests, Jack Dice, Devin Bradley, Carolyn Finney, and Devin Johnson. Kudos to all of you for being big movers and shifters in our community for environmental change. We really appreciate everything you do.
It is Devin Jackson.
Jackson, yes.
Johnson's a beautiful name, but Devin Jackson.
Devin Jackson, my apologies.
It's okay.
So now I'm going to turn it over to Tyler, who's going to tell you the sustainability tip of the month.
Yes, well, and in honor of Devin Joseph Guilford Jackson, I love the 4 names. I'm a guy with 3 names, so I appreciate that. And the work that he did with his kids, but also Devin Bradley in the high school, I chose an action from the Cleaner Contra Costa Challenge that has to do with waste and packaging. So just to remind you, the Cleaner Contra Costa Challenge is a platform that allows you to track your actions, reduce your carbon footprint with lots of resources. It's kind of a one-stop shop for all these sustainability actions. And it's fun because you get to join a team and track your progress. You can do an energy audit. It's super easy. And many different actions are available there for you to commit to. One of them is skip the packaging, because at the moment, 40% of all plastic produced is made for just one use, which, if as Devin was sharing, both Devins, creates enormous waste and pollution. So first, when you're choosing things, just look for those packaged with less plastic and, of course, less packaging overall. There are now a number of retailers that offer completely reusable containers. You fill it up and you bring it back to them empty, and you can fill it again. So there's this one Resource Fill that just donated to our auction, and several others. So look for those that are really circular in that sense, zero packaging waste, at least for some years, for the life of the container. And then buying in bulk doesn't just mean toilet paper at Costco. It means a lot of things that come in packages at the grocery store, like beans, pasta, flour. Those things can be bought from stores with bulk bins. If you bring your own bag, you've really reduced the packaging. Yes, it is a little more challenging right now with COVID. A number of stores have restricted or closed their bulk bins, but we do anticipate that will shift back again. I hope people are noticing the pretty clear science that the virus is not spread by touch, and that bulk bins are perfectly safe. And it's a great way to save packaging, but it's also a tremendous money saver if you look at the per pound price for a lot of these products. Then there is the reusable travel mug, water bottle, straws, and utensils. I hope everyone already has those in place, but if you don't, they're so much easier to find now. And everyone should be using those whenever possible, and you can keep one in the car and one at home. And it's pretty simple to have reusable items like that. We're also asking you to question whether it does need to be ordered online. Of course, we increased that dramatically during the pandemic, and those online items almost always have more packaging than the things you purchase locally. So think about that. Of course, there's other factors. If you're driving your car 30 miles a day for a one-way trip to buy something, that might not be as earth friendly as ordering it. But if you consolidate your errands, if you are staying fairly local, you can reduce packaging by just not always ordering things online. So that's another thing to think about. But every one of these actions, not just this one, but many other related ones, are found on the cleanercontracosta.org site. So you can head over there, take a look. There's action plans for each one that steps you through them, resources, as I said, and we'll have a seasonal challenge that we'll announce shortly, and you can earn prizes with your points. So that's your tip. And I'll just move on to the events, Laura, because that's our next thing, is to remind folks a couple things coming up in October. California Clean Air Day is on October 6th. We are a partner with California Clean Air Day, and we want to remind everybody that you can take the pledge at cleanairday.org. You can find local events. There's some bike rides and other things happening on the day, but there's actually a lot of great resources on that website. So take a look at cleanairday.org. We are one of the 4 co-sponsors of the Green Sofa Cinema series, where you watch the movie on your own and then come together to talk about it. And Vertical Farms is the next one. We were just hearing about Cindy Gershon. Carolyn was talking about her founder of Sunrise Bistro and a wizard of school nutrition teaching and many other things, but she also knows a lot about vertical farming. So after you watch this movie, which is free to watch on YouTube, then you come together on October 27th to join Cindy to really understand what is the deal with vertical farming. How can it help with climate change work, and what does it mean to set up vertical farms? And there's a lot of different ways to do it. And finally, Sustainability Week is coming, the first ever here in Contra Costa, primarily driven by folks at Sustainable Walnut Creek, but it's available to everybody throughout the county. Lots of different activities through the week of October 24th through 30th. So take a look at Sustainable Walnut Creek's website, or on our websites, CoCo. We should have a link to that shortly. Okay. I think I should read the credits because I think we're just about done. Let me remind you to connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The video YouTube version of tonight will be up there probably by the end of the day tomorrow, so you can share it with your friends or watch it again. And this has been Sustainability Live, a production of Sustainable Contra Costa and presented as part of our community education and outreach program. We want to thank our generous sponsors: Central Contra Costa Sanitary District, Contra Costa Green Business Program, Mount Diablo Resource Recovery, MCE, the cities of Antioch, Pittsburgh, Martinez, Moraga, Pleasant Hill, and Walnut Creek, Contra Costa County, Contra Costa Water District, East Bay Municipal Utility District, Eco Mulch, John Muir Health, Moraga Hardware and Lumber, Recycle Smart, Renaissance Walnut Creek Hotel, Republic Services, Swinerton Builders, and Tri Delta Transit. And we also thank our crew tonight: Director Mark Westwind, producer Gotham Sathison, I'm your technical director, Tyler Stoneham Phelps, and our awesome host for the evening, Laura Worley. For more information about One Planet Living and all of Sustainable Contra Costa's programs, activities, and events, visit our website. And as we like to say, this program is free for you to watch, but not free for us to produce. So we do ask for your support. You can very easily and quickly make a donation on our website. Contact us at info@sustainablecoco.org. Did I cover everything, Laura?
You did it. Good job, Tyler. You got in all the good stuff. And thank you all for watching too. Thank you for joining and watching and your clever questions and clever comments. And I hope some of you can connect up. John and Devin, maybe you can make some kind of sustainable teacher district position. I think that's very smart. And Jack, keep doing the good work. I think you'll be doing this into your 100s. Devin, you just started the mission, so you have a lot to go. We're just really impressed with you all. Thank you for being here.
And congratulations again to all of you winners.
Yeah, Carolyn,
Yes,
I think I could talk to you for 4 more hours, so you might be on my next call list.
All right. Take care.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Laura.
everyone.
Thank you.